Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lawn Care CEO podcast. My name is Dan Ralphs, and I'm here with the CEO of Lawn Care CEO, Aaron Suttonfield, for episode number, I don't even know. We're getting to the
Two,
point where
three.
I don't know. This is exciting, Aaron. Like I used to know how many podcasts, like it's like nine or something. It's like nine.
hmm
There's not even
Episode
that
nine.
many. That's how good my memory is that I can remember 8 episodes. So episode number nine, we're excited to have you with us here. Hope you're having a great mid-season grind. Hopefully it's kicking off. And I mean, this is kind of like crunch time where things really start hitting. And I don't know, Aaron, how did you feel about April, the month of April?
Ooh, let's see. Lawn care guys, month of April should be like excited but a little tired. Sales have been coming in for you most likely. You've probably reached the point where you're like, how do we schedule all this work?
Yeah, totally.
There's probably a little fatigue on extra projects that all these homeowners are wanting done if you're doing residential services. Could be, I've heard a little bit that lead volume's a little bit down across the country. I saw some
Yeah.
some Facebook groups talking about that. So maybe you're a little bit frustrated. I was talking to a client today, Dan, and he was telling me that he spent a lot of money for him on
Mm,
for his company on marketing and hasn't quite seen the return he
yeah.
wanted. And
Yeah.
so there's this is that point where it's about we're a little bit over the peak and almost coming back down for the seasonal sales, depending on your market. Southeast for sure. And so you're kind of seeing, ooh, we've done really well, or we kind
It's
of
kind of
missed it.
the moment
Um,
of reckoning a little bit where it's like, oh,
yeah,
let's find out what the harvest is going to yield. And we're getting some
yeah,
clarity around what the harvest is going to yield. And I've heard that too, right? I've been coaching a few clients that said, hey, lead volume's a little, the cost per lead is going up a little bit. The challenge for getting the leads in the door is a little bit more difficult.
I,
And we are going to talk about marketing and sales today, but
mm,
we probably should at some point. So stick around, keep listening,
yeah.
and
The
we'll
only
we'll
thing
get
I'll
some marketing and
say,
sales experts on here because it is a little, maybe a little harder this year than it has been.
yeah, and probably Dan. I mean, just to button this up a little bit on the marketing side, you know, I as a consumer, I'm a little bit tired of the premium I'm having to pay for everything I do, right? Like,
Yeah.
cost of living has risen significantly in the last 3 or 4 years, and shouldn't be a shock to anyone. I mean, we can have a whole podcast on that if we want,
Mm.
but I think consumers probably are a little bit tired, a little fatigued, and if you compare your lead volume to 2020 or 2021, it'd be pretty dangerous because there's a lot of funny money out there. People were home, people were spending that in our industry. We benefited greatly from COVID money in this industry from consumers having more. So probably, don't lose sleep. It's probably a more normal year, but with a little bit of fatigue that could be influencing it some. But yeah, we definitely need to do more marketing talk in the future, and we can do that for sure. But today we're going to
Today,
talk about what? Tell us.
yeah. So today, honestly, um, today we're going to talk about the very center of leadership, the very heart of leading a company effectively. It's by the way, the very heart of self leadership as well as it is leading other human beings and getting human beings bought into and rowing in the same direction. Because at the end of the day, business would be probably a lot easier if we didn't have to have humans involved. But the fact of the matter is that we get to have the privilege of working with other humans, enrolling other humans in the work that we get to do. And as a result, we got to lead humans effectively. We got to lead humans effectively because if we don't lead humans effectively, then we're going to be stuck. And I can't tell you probably how many business owners I've met that in one format or another, they've kind of communicated, man, if I could get my people on board, if I get my people just working and happy and engaged, this would be really easy. But man, it seems like every turn of that corner, I'm either having to lay people off or they're not doing the work or I have all these accountability issues and it's just hard to manage and lead people. So today I want to talk about an area of passion for me and it's an area of passion for Aaron, where it's like, how do we lead human beings really, really effectively? And how do we help them to be bought in and engaged in a really, really big way. And I want to start off by sharing a story. I'm not even sure I've told you the story, Aaron, but um, kind of the origin point for me really understanding what a great company culture looked like. I was working for a company that had been on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list. I was, while at the same time being on the great places to work list. So we were on both the good list. Not only was it an
Hmm.
awesome company where we're growing really fast, but the people within the company loved being there. We were like stoked for this company. And I was relatively new. This was like my first corporate gig. I've been a school teacher. It was my first corporate gig. I'm like showed up and I said, "This is my first corporate job." And everyone looks at me like, "This is not corporate, right?" We had about 150 employees. And we'd been driving on a goal together. We had this mission that we were working towards, which was we wanted to get to 26 million in revenue. And when I showed up at the company, one of the reasons I fell in love with it, they had hung these big banners across the wall. And one of the banners talked about their company purpose, which was to help empower entrepreneurs. They talked about their core values. They had core values like we do what we say we'll do, and they had core values like we believe in people and their dreams. And so I'd been kind of dosed. I drank the Kool-Aid of this company, is the moral of the story, and everyone around me had seemed to drink the Kool-Aid too. Well, we were driving at 26 million. We had big t-shirts on the back. It said 26. People were standing on chairs and like rallying us. And it was such a cool vibe. It was such a cool environment. And I was totally bought in. Well, it was December 3rd, and our CEO, whose name was Clayton Mask, who was the epitome of optimism and energy and enthusiasm, got up in front of the building, our all hands company meeting, and he essentially said this: "You guys," and he sounded defeated when he said it. He said, "You guys, we're not going to make it. Like, we're not going to make it. And I know that I promised you that we would double your Christmas bonus if we hit the $26 million goal. And I don't want you spending money that you don't have. And so I need to let you know, cancel your plans on $26 million because we've run the numbers, we've run all the simulations and scenarios. And even if we had the most bannerist of months, there's no way we're going to hit the $26 million goal." And he was defeated. It was really sad. And as I mentioned, one of our core values was we do what we say we'll do. And I was literally wearing the t-shirt that 26 million on the back. And it was like, we're going to, we're going to fail at this thing. And I remember after that meeting ended, it just kind of felt this hollow, icky feeling. And everyone was just like, "Meh, this is gross." And I watched as a handful of the kind of core leaders in the building walked up to Clay. And I was just nosy enough. I was brand new. I was like 3 months in. I didn't have a cool title. I was just like a frontline guy. And I walked up behind this little group of leaders. And I was like wanting to eavesdrop on what they were talking to Clay about. And they said, "Clay, how much? How far off are we?" And he explained, he's like, "Listen, even if we hit all of our projected numbers, we're going to fall about $400,000 short on a $26 million goal," which isn't bad, by the way. 59 points or 50, 25.6 million on a goal of 26 million is a really good, that's great work. But these guys had this core value that they'd bought into, which is we do what we say we'll do. And by the way, the bonuses they're getting aren't big dollars. But they said, "Clay, would it be okay if we tried? Would it be okay if we tried to hit that goal?" And Clay's like, "Yeah, do whatever you want, man." And so an email went out throughout the company that said, "Listen, we're refusing Clay's, that Clay has given up as the CEO. We refuse. We're not giving up." And they sent an email out to the entire company and they said, "Hey, if you're willing to help us try to solve this problem, meet us under the Christmas tree." So we had this big Christmas tree in our lobby. "Meet us under the Christmas tree at noon today." Out of the 150 employees, I'm guessing the 108 showed up to the meeting. And we said, "Listen, you're not getting any more money other than the Christmas bonus, which you already thought you had. You're going to have to sacrifice time and vacation days. If you want to be a part of this, we're going to give it a go." Well, what was amazing about this to me was here was something had happened in this culture that motivated people to give discretionary time to go after a goal the CEO had already declared that they were going to miss. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if your staff one day you're like, "Hey guys, our month's a little short," and your staff came to you and was like, "Listen, no way, don't quit, CEO, you lame CEO. We're going to like go after this thing." Like, how could we get people to buy in at a level where they were the ones driving towards a revenue goal, not towards like some vacation days? It was like, we just want to hit our revenue target. And long story short, we launched a product. We were selling this $10,000 product. By the way, we had to not only, in order for it to count, we had to not only sell the revenue, but we had to fulfill all the work before the year end in order for us to claim that as 2020, whatever revenue, 20, whatever year it was. And so we sold the product, we fulfilled it. Literally people gave up, canceled some Christmas plans so that we could do a 2-day event on December 29th and 30th.
Wow.
And we ended up at $26,005,000.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So the principle we're going to talk about today, Aaron, is how do we create that kind of magical culture? And I want to tell you how we did it. And Aaron's now the participant. He organized his business this way. He organized his church this way. It's like everywhere we go, we're like, hey, we want to get this kind of, we want to craft this kind of culture. And today we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about how that comes about.
So can we talk about your story for a second?
Yeah, man.
So I kind of know the roadmap, but the thing that I was just thinking of is if you're listening to this podcast and you're one of the tens of tens, that's been our joke for a while. Ask yourself, one, we're going to talk about culture today, so we're going to get to that, but just simple, like, and by the way, they both go hand in hand. What I'm going to talk about goes hand in hand. But if you're riding around right now, maybe you're on a mower with your AirPods in, you're spraying some lawns, I don't know, you're driving to look at some new client or whatever. Ask yourself, does my team even know what our revenue goal is? Right? Like you guys, like, I mean,
it was clear.
By the way,
yeah,
that's not the first step in what we're going to talk about today, but how many teams and how many companies is the first thing, we talk about, not one of the first things, but we, in the first 2 days when we talk with a new company, it's like, what are the KPIs? How do we know if we do this work? What are the measurables? And so you guys had a measurable. And so you had bought into the culture, which let's get into that here quickly. But quite frankly, you guys knew what the measurable was.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was one of many. So I mean, again, if you're riding around right now, you're hearing this and you're running a company, do you even have, if you're a solo operator, do you have a measurable? What's your goal? Right?
Yeah.
What's going to make you work a little bit past Christmas to come up with that extra?
And it was so contrast to other companies that I've met along the way, where they go, man, I can never find good work, can't find good help. And we chatted on our last podcast with Sam Bradford, where he gave examples of where the culture was just, it was icky, and everyone was doing as little as possible, trying to get out of the door as quick as possible, show up as late as possible.
Dan, if you've worked at a couple of different companies, and raise your hand if you like working on Saturday. I don't see any hands raised, right? Nobody in the audience has raised their hand. And I know that
there's one guy. There's one guy. There's one guy who's like just a workaholic. He's raising his hand.
But along the lines of companies with good culture, and I'll brag a little bit on my team. Man, we've just been hammered with rain in Charlotte, North Carolina since January. I think we've had 1 week out of the year where we didn't get some form of rainfall, which in our industry is great, but too much can be a problem. It just impacts production, right? And so in our leadership meeting last week, our general manager, Chris, he said, "Hey, just want to let you know we're working Saturday." And I was like, "Cool, why?" And he's like, "Well, we're not going to make production. And it's important to us. It's something we track, right?" And along the lines of hard to find people who want to work or no one wants to work on Saturday. Heck, most of our guys say we can't find some
Yeah.
people who want to work Monday through
And guess
Friday.
what? Like we didn't have a bunch of guys wanted to work their Christmas break, right?
No,
Yeah.
right. And so we had 100% attendance on Saturday. We got really close to our production goal. We knew we weren't going to hit the production goal, but every dollar that was under that was just another dollar we were going to make up in the next couple of weeks, right? Because we have a monthly production goal. But the point is that I didn't have to go in there and deliver that bad news. I didn't have to go in there and, like, we all know there's a scoreboard. And
Yeah.
so if you're a football fan and your team is down by
Yeah.
7 and you have the ball with 2 minutes to go and you're on the 50, you kind of know, like, the odds of that,
Yeah.
versus if the other team has the ball and they're about to score and you're down 7 with 2 minutes, like, you
Yeah.
kind of know, like.
So
And so
I didn't
again,
mean to get to this principle, but the principle is, like, if we're not keeping score, then it's not a very fun game. And certainly the
yeah,
26 million or the production goal are examples of keeping score. And the second question is, how do we get all of our players to want to win the game? What's going to motivate them to win the game? And especially in this scenario, like, your guys didn't make extra money. I guess they kind of did because you pay performance, but they made kind of what they would have, but I don't think it was the money that was motivating them. It certainly wasn't the money that was motivating our company to go work on their Christmas break. It was something else. And so let's talk about the
yeah,
non-money motivators. So as human beings, like, in order for us to lead humans well, we have to understand humans. So let me just teach you a little bit about humans if you haven't thought this deeply about it. I don't know why I have, but if you haven't thought this deeply about it, there are a handful of, like, core human needs, things that motivate human beings other than money. And by the way, money is the lowest on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the lowest of motivators. It's like, it's the foundational one. It's the core one. We have to have that. But as soon as we get beyond it, the more high or elevated motivations have nothing to do with money. So once we check the box, because the Maslow's hierarchy says we need to have safety, security, and then it's like sustenance or something. We have to have that base level. But as human beings, there are four. I'm going to list four things that human beings need and want. And then you're going to see how the way we structure our leadership, the way we structure our vision for our company meets those needs. And because it meets these needs, it creates just a overwhelmingly powerful culture that is hard to match in any other way. So the four human needs are this. Number one, as human beings, we need meaning in our lives. We need our lives to matter, and we need to have the hours that we spend in our lives matter. And by the way, this doesn't matter who you are. If you're a $10 an hour employee, which I don't even think that exists anymore, to a $100,000 an hour employee, you need to have a good reason. You need to have meaning in your life. And by the way, where we lack meaning, we seek it in some form or another. It's the reason why there are so many football fans in the world, is they want to have their weekend matter and have something to say when they say, "How was your weekend?" And it has some meaning. So principle number one is meaning. Principle number two is belonging. I want to feel like I belong in a group. We're actually social creatures. Even the introverts want to feel like they belong somewhere. And one of the most painful and difficult positions to be in is the idea of loneliness, to feel like you're kind of all alone in the world. And so we need meaning, we need belonging. The third one is we need some level of autonomy, i.e., freedom, meaning I can make choices and I can determine. I have a little bit of determinism about the way my life goes. So we have a reason why we care about our lives, meaning we feel like we have people to share that with. And I feel like I have some choice in the direction of my life. And then the last one is contribution, which means not only do I belong to a community, but within that community, the work that I do contributes in a meaningful way. And so it's kind of like a little self-pride that what I did mattered, right? Okay, so those four things: meaning, autonomy, belonging, contribution. Okay, see those four things. And so the way that we address that, the way we create an environment in our company in which we get to satisfy those four human needs, because when those four human needs are satisfied, people will go to tremendous lengths to be able to maintain their feeling of belonging, to maintain their feeling of meaning, etc. So like when Aaron says, "Hey, we want to hit our production goal," well, there's a meaning to that. They're a part of a group. They know that if they weren't there, their contribution would be missed. And they had some choice, I'm sure, in the matter as to whether or not they decided to come in on Saturdays. It was like, "Hey guys, we think we probably need to come in on Saturdays. What do you think?" And they're saying, "Yeah, I think I'm going to be part of that." And let me tell you how we get to a culture that's way. All right. All this conversation, we haven't even gotten to the punchline yet.
Go ahead.
So your number one job as a leader, is to set the vision. And that makes sense, right? Because if I say, "Hey, follow me, Aaron," what's your first question going to be?
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Right? That makes perfect sense. Follow me. Where are we going? And so I need to have a good answer for where are we going. And it's even better, you're going to have more buy-in if I say, "I don't know, Aaron, what do you think? Where should we go?" And so our number one job is to set the vision. And I define vision as 3 parts. And you'll notice how they pair up to the human needs. Part number 1 is purpose. Purpose is why does what we do matter? What makes our work meaningful? So we're quite literally directly answering this core human need. Hey, when you come work with us, this is why our work matters. So Aaron, when we first met, shortly after we first met, we got together with your company, with everyone in the company. All of these guys are coming in on Saturday. And we said, what makes the work we do meaningful? And do you remember that conversation? Why don't you talk about some of the answers from your group, your
Oh
field techs,
gosh.
from everybody? Do you remember that? We asked
Yeah.
what makes this work meaningful? And they had a bunch of really good answers.
Man, we don't script this stuff, so you caught me off guard. And actually, we write everything down. So it's possible I have a picture of it.
You have some
If you'll give
notes
me a
there.
second. Yeah. Hang on one second. Let's pull it up. It would be kind of cool.
Oh, you
Hang
found it
on
that
one
fast?
I think
That's
so. Hang
impressive.
on.
But so
Um,
while you're looking, I'll set it up. So imagine we're sitting in a room. We have all of his field techs, his manager, his office manager, his sales guy. We're all sitting around a big table. And basically, facilitator guy, me, is asking the question, what makes the work we do meaningful? What are the moments in your life, in your day, where you go, "Man, that was a good day. That was a good day." Whether it's something a client said, whether it's some feeling of pride as you look back at this really green lawn, or you're driving by a lawn that you know you've been treating for a year and a half and you see the green grass. And we're just trying to help them recognize those moments of meaning that live outside the paycheck. Okay. So the moments of meaning that live outside the paycheck. So for example, I did this with a group of Hispanic leaders. Did you find it, by the way?
I didn't.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought I had it, but I didn't find it.
Okay.
Um,
So at least I can remember some of the things you guys said, but, I'll be a little generic with it, but they said things like, Aaron, right? Um, they said things like, "Man, I love it when, I a woman came out and she said how grateful she was for the way I treated the grass." And another one was, "Man, I just love making grass look green. And when I finish the day, it looks really great." And what were some of the other ones? But moral of the story is, and I don't want to delay this because we're looking for this image, but the moral of the story is, at the end of the day, your people currently are seeking meaning in the day-to-day work that they do. And so for us to help them catch meaning in the day-to-day work we do is powerful. And so at the end of the day, we totaled up all their answers, and we put them up on the wall, and we asked them to write one word like short sentences that abbreviated all that meaning. And where we finally landed, Aaron, was the purpose of RDS Lawn Care is.
Save lawns and impact people.
And so give a little deeper cut into that. Why does that
So,
matter?
I just found it.
Oh, you
I
did?
think they wrote this down. They're happy clients, proud clients, space to play, family joy, building confidence. We care about people,
That's cool,
pride in
son.
my work, impact lives, help people. And so we had actually developed our purpose in 2017. We actually revisited it in 2022. Um, and our purpose is to save lawns and impact people. So, uh, what does that mean? If I were to hire you, Dan, to come join our company, I would tell you our purpose pretty early in the interview. I would say, hey, we exist to save lawns and impact people. So we're the work we do every day is to make someone's lawn nicer, right? More weed free, or weed free, greener, healthier. There's a lot of people who have been burned by our competitions. This is a timing game, and so people are impatient. So we need to educate. But we want to save lawns, right? Make them look nice. But then we also want to impact people. And I'll tell my team, I try to do that at RDS through how we take care of the people who work here, right? We're really big on providing health care to our team. We pay 75% of that. I mean, there's some corporations that don't pay 75% of your health care. And our little company does that. We do a 3% retirement match. We're big on paid vacation. Even though we're paid for performance, we do actually give paid vacation. All of this is accessible to an employee after 90 days of employment. A lot
Hmm.
of companies, especially smaller companies, will make you wait a year before you earn some of these things. And we said, no, we want to, we realize there's some people who are going to come in and burn us, but the good people won't come to us if we don't,
And,
do
and,
this
and,
earlier.
and really at the core of it, right? So Aaron, you personally, why does it matter that you spend this portion of your life in RDS impacting people and saving lives? Why does that like actually matter to you?
For me, the only thing that matters anymore is, and this is, going to sound cliche possibly, or a little mighty, high and mighty, but honestly, I don't need RDS to do any more financially for me. I reached a point in my company where, and I'm not independent. You know me, Dan. I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not lighting cigars with $100 bills and doing whatever people do with lavish money. I'm very, I have a very middle class, maybe upper middle class possibly. But the point is, I don't want you, if you're listening to this and you don't know me, to think, oh, he's wealthy and got tons of money in the bank. It's not the case. I'm just comfortable. And so more money is not going to make me happier. And when I was doing this study in 2017, the first time I did it, and then we revisited again, there was a period where I kind of got a little depressed about the business. It's like, ugh, like what do
Mm.
I do now? It's I've got enough. Like what do I do now? And I realized I did chase the money for a long time. The reality is I really get a joy out of seeing people come into our company and win and seeing their lives. I get a joy knowing that the people who work at RDS right now, the majority of them need this job. They need benefits. They need this. This is providing for their families. There was a period of time, Dan, and if you're in this industry, you're probably dealing with this, where you can't pay people the way you want to pay people. Some of these lower margin services just don't provide enough money to pay some of these. You may be listening to this going, man, how the heck does he pay healthcare? And I can barely pay payroll right now. And the reality is we had to change the way we do business, and we really focused, because we wanted to really make an impact. We had to do higher margin
And I'm going to
services, and we
ask you
had to figure this out.
one layer deeper, even. Why do you care personally about impacting people? Because you've reorganized your world, you've reorganized your company, all so that you can have that moment where some guy's life is a little better, his family's a little bit improved, his culture, his kind of attitude towards himself is elevated. Why does that matter to you?
Mm, you're catching me on the spot. Hmm. I mean, I guess the way I was raised, I guess my
Yeah.
faith comes into play.
Like, and that's what I'm getting at. At the end of the day, it's
Yeah,
like, because that's what life's supposed to be about, right?
yeah.
Like, that's
I
what
mean,
life is supposed
yeah.
to be about. That's what brings me meaning in life, is
Mhm.
to say, hey, like, if you put on your headstone at the end of your life, Aaron, here lies Aaron Suttonfield. He impacted people and saved lawns. It would be like, all right, good job, high five, let's go to heaven. It's like, that was a good
Yeah.
life. you know? And so at the end of the day, we're looking to find, like, I don't want to make it casual. It's not a marketing slogan. It's like, what is life supposed to be about?
Well, so Dan, one thing you hit on this just now. It's not a market. We don't market our purpose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine if you throw it on something occasionally, but this is knowing the purpose of your company is not for your clients or your potential clients. It is for your team,
Yeah.
right? At RDS, our team knows that we genuinely care. And let's just go ahead and get this out real quick. Don't do these things we're talking about
Yeah.
to check a box. Like, oh, I need an employee handbook.
Yeah.
Check. Oh, I need purpose. Check. Because I honestly will not work for somebody who lies about their purpose or who really doesn't believe in their purpose.
So
I
I'll
will
tell you my
run
story.
from that person.
I'll tell you my story. Like I was sitting next to my wife. She works for a large healthcare provider out that will remain unnamed in Arizona. And we were sitting at a health clinic. She's an RN. And on their wall, they had their core values listed in their mission statement, their purpose statement. And I was like, oh, I'm a nerd for this stuff, right? Oh, sweetheart, here it is. Look. And she just looked and kind of like frowned and read through the core values one by one. Nope, they don't live that. They don't live that. And each time she read one, she got a little more bitter, a little more angry and sad. It was like, man, here's this company claiming all these things that they're not. So to your point, it's better that we stay in a position where we're not claiming to be a purpose-driven company. We're not claiming to be a core values-driven company. Because if you can't actually live that life, better that you are who you are and you let everyone know who you are. If this is just about money for you, it's good for you to communicate this is just about money for me. It's more authentic,
Well,
at least. It's not going to motivate human beings, by the way, because nobody wakes up
no,
in the morning and says, oh, how do I help my boss get richer? But they do wake
no,
up in the morning and say, how do I help my boss impact people and save
yeah,
lawns?
and and you said, meaning in our lives, belonging to a group, autonomy, and contribution, right? Those are the
Yeah.
four things. And so the cool thing is, like, our team, even though I had a purpose for 2017, and the only one person in that room back on December 17th, 2022, it's right here in front of me. Only one person in that room was there in 2017 when we created the purpose.
Yeah.
And so we went back through. You said, "Hey, humor me a little bit. Let's 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 go through this with the team and make sure they're aligned with your purpose." And we did that, and we came out. That purpose did still stand, and they had seen it, but we had not promoted a lot. But the point I'm getting at is, if there's not a purpose, you're missing out on a way to connect with people, and your team won't uh, they won't care if you make money on the company. But if that's your only focus, if you're driving a new Corvette every year, they're going to have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth if that's all they see, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so I don't think a team, and I always tell my team, and I tell any team we coach, Dan, if this owner doesn't get a return on their investment, we're not going to have jobs, me included, right? As the coach, right? Like, this company has to return a profit. There's a shareholder here. Let's be honest about that. It's okay. It's not against the rules. It's not bad. But far too many times we get this as owners, and I lived in this world for a while where it's like, darn it, I'm the one who put all this money up. I'm the one that blood, sweat, and tears. I'm the one that almost went bankrupt in 2008 when the economy crashed. None of these people did. Well, right. So,
Mhm.
but if you just live in that world, you're going to be really bitter. You're going to be a pretty miserable person to be around, and no one's going to want to be around you. And that's when you're going to be calling us saying, "Hey, Dan, Aaron, nobody wants to work." And the reality is they do. They do. Go listen to the last podcast with Sam Bradford. People do want to work.
Yeah.
We so many times crush them, and I won't give away their podcast. But the point is, what's the purpose of this? It's got to be bigger than making money. And by the way, if you go read Jim Collins' Good to Great, all the great companies,
Yeah.
all of them, when they compared them to the good companies, Pay was not the motivating factor. Matter of fact, all the great companies underpaid compared to the competition. And we're not trying to be greedy. We're not trying. I think we should have a great company that pays better than everybody. That's what my goal is. But at the end of the day, money's not. How many times, Dan, in the last couple of years, we've been really digging deep with companies. Have someone said, "Hey, how much do I need to pay a general manager? How much do I need to pay a good
Yep.
office manager? How
All the
much do I
time.
need to pay a good marketing person?" And it's like, it's money, money, money. The reality is, you know what? A rock star is not going to come work for your company if you don't have a purpose and a mission and some values and clear, like Dan, back to the KPIs, like, how do I win here? Right.
Yep.
And by the way, it's not just one of those, it's all of those working together. And it really takes about a year or so for the team to really go, oh, my owner does believe this. The shareholders of the leadership of this company did actually, they implemented this, but then they followed through with it.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so,
Let me
yeah,
give you kind of the extreme example of this, and then we can move on from purpose. But at first, I really thought that purpose was really for the employee. It was like, how do we motivate the employee? And one of the ways we do that is we denote a higher level of purpose. And the longer I've done this, the more I've realized that maybe even more than that, the clarity of purpose in the mind of an owner, where they recognize that they can be about a bigger cause, a cause that's more important than the revenue or the profit or the bottom line, that the revenue and profit and bottom line are all in service of something much bigger. That coming from that position of pure principle, coming from that position where you can state with confidence that this is what my world is really about. When you can wake up in the morning and not have it be about you and your family and how your family eats, but have the money you make and the way your family eats a consequence of successfully executing the purpose. It creates in you a tremendously powerful position to lead from. So think about the great causes in human history. And this is the historian in me coming out, but like when you think about the great causes in human history, you think about the Gandhis, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s of the world, the people who rallied millions of people to a cause where people were volunteering and even volunteering and willing to suffer pain and suffering and jail time and even death in service of that cause. Like, they weren't paying any of those people, right? Gandhi didn't pay the millions of followers to march, do the salt marches across India. Like, at the end of the day, the reason they bought in is because they bought into the higher cause. And the only way Gandhi could engender that in them was not by flowery speeches. It was because he was 100% bought into that cause. And so if you aren't 100% bought into the cause that you're claiming to espouse, then it doesn't have nearly the power to generate this kind of motivation we created. When Clayton Mask at our little Infusionsoft company said, we exist to help small businesses succeed, he meant that with every fiber of his soul. And as a result, we all were like, yes, I'm in too. I'm in for this purpose. And so, like, Aaron and I, we have a purpose. Our purpose is to help others do more good in the world. And that's why I record podcasts on days like today when I could be doing something else, right? But I want to help people do more good in the world. And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm unabashedly unapologetic for it. Come fight me if you don't care about that. Like, let's go, because I care deeply about helping others do more good in the world. And revenue is a vehicle for me to be able to do that purpose. And I know that sounds Pollyannish or idealistic, but honestly, I think my business is going to grow and I'm going to be able to accomplish more in my life. And I'm going to be able to feel better on my deathbed if I don't make it about revenue and I make it about helping others do more good in the world. And
did
so
you see? Did you watch the Masters this weekend?
pieces of it.
Did you see Scotty Scheffler press conference when he talked about his fate?
I saw a tweet about it, but I didn't see it. So tell us about it.
And he talked about his oh gosh, I should have written it down so I don't mess it up, but I'll paraphrase it. He basically said, he's a Christian, very devout, and he said they were talking about, what would it mean to have a second green jacket, and he was like, my self worth is not in this game. Like, I know who I am as a Christian, And, my image is not,
Mm,
my identity is not in this game. My identity is in Christ. And we're not a Christian podcast, but both of us are Christians and faithful people. And I'm actually just a little plug here. I'm there. John Maxwell has a pretty cool biblical leadership devotional that I'm doing right now. It's a little 7-day devotional on the Bible app if you're interested. And it's talking about leaders doing the right things for the right reasons, right? Like
yeah.
not
Yeah.
just for the image of it, right? Like uh, one of the thoughts I had is, man, I don't know Scotty Scheffler personally. I believe him, but man, it would be uh, devastating if we found out he wasn't that person. But I believe he is. But so many times I think athletes and business owners and people have all this success and they don't have purpose, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and your purpose doesn't have to be founded in faith. I hope it is. It'd be great, but that's what faith gives us, right? Is a bigger purpose than these worldly things that are going on here, and I think that's what we're talking about, right, Dan? It's like if
Yep.
you can get aligned with something that's a little bit bigger than just Benjamins, and sometimes those are nice thank you notes. I think you say it like that, right? But ultimately, like, I mean, you're going to get to a point in your company where, okay, I'm at $5 million in revenue. Man, you're going to look back and go, I could not believe I'd ever get here. Well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Well, let's go to 10 million. Okay, well then what? Like, and so I had a guy that we just started working with. And I said, what's your purpose? And he goes, I want to build my company up and sell it in the next 7 years. I was like, awesome. That's not a purpose. What are you going to do after you sell your company? And he's like, I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you better start thinking about it because you're going to be lost when you sell your company. And people who are really famous or successful or make a lot of money, and I have this theory, like you have all this time, and we're not really meant to be self-centered, right? We're not really meant. Like, I don't think that's how we were created.
Yeah.
We're not going to get
Yeah.
off on this creation stuff, but at the end of the day, we were meant to work and work for others, and I think that far too many times as business owners, as leaders, we get so self-centered because it's hard, because it's difficult to create this company. I was just on the phone today with a guy who, he's just getting started, and he was sharing with me some really painful things, and I just felt horrible for him. And the reality is this is hard, and so it's really easy to get jaded as a small business owner and get in this lull. And so having a purpose and doing some of these things is going to be really helpful to you as you scale your company, as you go through the hard times, to just refocus. And I firmly believe Scotty Scheffler is able to go out there and play 18 holes at Augusta National because he genuinely is not defined by anything that happens there.
He's about a higher
What a
purpose.
powerful,
He's
yeah,
about a higher purpose, right? He's about a
like
higher cause. And
like Dan, I don't care if the lawn care CEO works with 15 or 15,000 people. As long as whatever we're working for, we're genuinely helping them do more good, I'm okay.
yeah.
Like I'm not going to be defined by this.
Yeah.
I hope we work with 15,000 people because we'll help a lot of people, right? And our goal is to help a lot of people, not just 15.
Yep.
However, neither one of us are going to be defined by that. And so, like, I just be careful when you're starting out, or you've been running this path. Maybe you're at 2 million in revenue and you're just lost. Like, sit down tonight and just start thinking about, like, why do I wake up in the morning? What is the
Yeah.
purpose of this company? And
And
try to align that
and there
with
is a
that.
slight distinction from a personal purpose, right? To
Mhm.
serve my family, to take care of my kids, and the business purpose,
Mhm.
meaning, but because the business purpose just needs to, who is it said that you need to make your dream big enough that it has room for everyone else's dreams. And we need to make our purpose big enough that so there's room for everyone else's meaning and purpose in it. And that's where, like, impacting people, I mean, most human beings, a lot of human beings can get behind impacting people and helping other people be elevated and grow and develop. And so you do want to find a purpose that doesn't just denote your personal purpose, although that your personal purpose should fit within, and it's often the source of that broader company purpose. But that's what we're driving for, is that company purpose. And we got to find one that we can get a lot of people bought into, and we can get a lot of people rowing in the same direction. So part one of vision. So I'll take you back to where we started. So our number one job as a leader is to define the vision of the company, to say, hey, follow me. And someone might ask, well, why? Well, because, hey, we're going to go help people do more good in the world. And if my heart resonates with that purpose, if you feel excited about that purpose, then maybe you could come join me in the work that we're about to go create and help people do more good in the world. So that's part one. And it starts answering some of those core human needs that create loyalty and commitment and connection. It creates deeper meaning, it creates deeper belonging. And if I'm a part of the craft and creation of it, it also creates a feeling of autonomy or choice. That's one of the reasons we draw everyone in. We say, hey, come be a part of crafting this purpose, because now it's mine, and I chose it, and I opted into it, and I helped create it. The second piece
Yeah,
of
one
yeah,
of the
go ahead.
biggest mistakes, Dan, is when we as owners come up with all this stuff and then we go back, hey guys, I did a lot of work this weekend. Let me tell you
Yeah.
about our purpose.
Yeah.
Well, it's not our purpose. Let me tell you about my purpose. And then we're kind of back to that self-serving thing.
Cause
So
yeah, because
bring some people
whose
together.
agenda are we on? We're on my agenda, but
Right.
if it's us designing it together, it's our agenda,
Yep.
and moving in that direction is really important. Um, I think we have time to talk for just a few minutes, Aaron, about the second piece of this core culture, which is our core values, and what our core values are and what they mean. So if the purpose is why we do what we do, I oftentimes think I would say, hey, follow me. Where are we going? We're going to Detroit. Well, why are we going to Detroit? Well, we're going to Detroit because we're going to go help others do more good in the world. And who's coming with us? So a core part of this kind of creating a culture of belonging and creating an environment where people want to be and feel bought in and connected to the people around them is to be able to identify a set of core values that define our tribe. So every tribe has a set of core values. So, for example, if your tribe is the Detroit Lions, then your tribe requires you to hate the Green Bay Packers. Like there's a value within there is a value set, right? And so every tribe has a set of core values that unite them. And so part of the process of developing this really deep culture is to identify a set of core values, and then to gather a group of people who share those core values together. So we're not necessarily gathering a group of people that share all the same values, but at least a handful of values are shared. And so when I came into this little company of mine where the Christmas tree story happened, I felt at home there. I literally, like, there's a guy that sat 2 rows back that I knew, and we'd been friends when we were kids. I'm like, dude, we're pals. We get along. And all of a sudden I recognized that the people around me were like me in a handful of important ways. And we'd set up a set of core values, things like we believe in people and their dreams, we listen, we care, we serve, we do the right thing, we check our egos at the door. We had this set of values that resonated with me personally. In fact, I remember when I was doing the hiring process, literally the hiring manager stood me out on the field and he had me read the core values, and then he said, "You passed." And I was like, "Because I can read?" And he's like, "No, because when you read the core values, your eyes lit up, like you connected with or resonated with the values." And so that's our goal, is to create an environment where people share a set of core values. And we want diversity in a lot of different ways. I totally believe in diversity, but we don't want diversity in like the sense of, if one of our core values is integrity, where we go, oh, we got too many people who live with integrity around here. We need to get some liars and cheats and thieves around. Like we don't want diversity that way. And I think you've mentioned this a couple of times, that where Dave Ramsey says, horses don't want to hang out with donkeys. Thoroughbreds don't want to hang out with donkeys. And what happens too often is that when we do have someone who doesn't live the core values, maybe one of our core values is we check our egos, and we have a bunch of humble, hardworking, open, willing to learn people. And then we throw one super egotistical egomaniac in the mix. And
So painful, isn't it?
by the way, who leaves the company? The egomaniac? No,
The good people.
it's these good people who are like, dude, I don't want to be around this guy. And so the first step is we have to establish this is who we are. these are the rules of play. And if you're not with us on these things, then you're against us and you don't get to be here. And literally, it has to become a fireable offense if you don't value those values.
And so core values to me, Dan, and along those lines, I always say this to our team when we talk about our core values. I say, if you don't get our core values, you're not a bad person. Like, I mean, you're not a horrible person. It's not like we're good and you're bad. It's just you just don't fit here. Like when there's a culture, when culturally we just don't mesh. We've all worked in places where we're like, ugh, a little bit off. It's typically around culture, and it's just painful. And there's just times where some people aren't a good fit on the team, and it becomes personal, right? It's easy for it to become
Yeah.
personal because it's people. But at the end of the day, I think it's just really important when a lot of times when we get rid of people, it's because we let it fester too long, and then it did become personal. Then it became, dislike and disdain and things like that. But the reality is, if we were to have these discussions more openly, if we shared these purposes and these values and we talked about them together and we developed them together, then it's pretty easy to go, oh no, this is who we are. I'll share ours. We win and lose as a team. We put the client first. We are quality driven, and we listen, we care, and we serve. And if you do a good job with core values and you're talking about them on a weekly, monthly basis, more importantly, the best time I found to take core values and use them is to say, hey, today I think we missed it here. Let me tell you how that didn't align with our core values. I know you get frustrated. It's hot. The client was being really overbearing there, but we put the client first. Like it didn't say we put the good clients first. It didn't say we put, the ones who pay the best first, or we put the client first. And if that person's a client,
Yeah.
sometimes now we don't tolerate abuse, and we won't let someone cuss us out. There's a line, but at the same time, we listen, we care, and we serve, right? So like listen to the client. A lot of times, if you got that nagging client, just let them talk, let them get it out. They'll run out of steam. And many times I let them, if we're on the phone, we just let them sit there and say, oh, are you there? Yeah. Oh, yes, I'm listening. I'd love to respond, but, again, use these core values to teach and train
Yep.
how you want people to act, right, in your company. And,
Yeah.
as you go down the line, leadership team better get all the core values, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't be on the leadership team if you don't nail every core value.
It's almost,
Now,
you have
if
to be
you're,
kind of a dramatic example of those values. And
Mhm.
the ideal, right, is we have a
Yep.
dramatic example of the core values. And so at its core, we hire to these values. It's part of the interview process. We make sure that you fit, just like the example I gave earlier. We lead to the values, like Aaron's talking about. Every day we're talking about, if they aren't rolling their eyes, you're probably not talking about the values enough. And then finally we fire to the values. Like when people just consistently are demonstrating they don't value the values, they don't care about these values really. It's not like they have to be perfect, but when they make mistakes, they're like, I don't care. Or if they or if they or they consistently demonstrate by the behavior that they're not buying into these values, then it's time for us to let them go. And that may be the most powerful moment of you demonstrating that your belief and commitment to the core values is when you let someone go who is otherwise productive simply because they don't fit and they aren't living these kind of core values that we have in the company. And all of a sudden everyone around you goes, oh, these values are real because that guy was a pretty good performer, but dude, we all knew he was a grumpy pants. And as a result, he didn't belong here because we like have a core value of we are optimistic or we believe in positivity. And he did not, clearly. And if we would have let him stick around, then basically that core value, and by consequence, all the other core values get kind of set to the side. And so, like, we have these kind of two principles, right? We have this principle of why we do what we do, and then we have this set of like core values that say this is the culture we're going to create. And there's an old saying that says what we tolerate, we endorse. And we're just not going to tolerate behavior that lives outside of these core values. We're going to correct it. We're going to coach it. We're going to work on fixing it. When I, as a leader, am out of whack, I'm going to apologize for it, and make sure that everyone understands these are the core values we expect. And I think at the end of the day, those two ideas, purpose, values, are the reason why great companies are able to have people come in on Saturday and doing a little extra work kind of on their own volition, to pause their Christmas break and Christmas activities to try to hit a revenue goal that their CEO had already given up on. It's those things that allow that's where the real seed of culture is in our purpose, it's in our values, and our commitment as a leader to those things, and then how well we can engender that in the team that we lead. Final thought, Aaron?
Yeah. Remember, if you were to, and I ask this question, Dan, when we work with companies, I'll say, hey, Tom, you're on the team here. You've been an employee here for a while. Could you go find another job? Could you find a, and 100% of the time, the answer is, yeah, I could find it, especially the last few years, right? I mean, there's been very good opportunities. And the reality is what I want the owner to get is that everybody here could go find another job to replace the money they're making, most likely. And so people don't work for money. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a leader in the lawn care industry, you own a company. And so remember, people don't come to work for money. That's a given. They understand they're exchanging their time for some money, but that's not the real reason they stay. They might come here, but they don't stay for money. And I think leadership begins with your heart. And far too many times as business owners, we do a lot of unemotional things, right? And I think it's very wise as a leader. I'm probably a little more on the less heart than Dan. Dan's a little more heart than me, just the way we're wired. But be careful not to just be all KPI driven and just what this person produces. What we talked about today with purpose and values is leading with your heart. And it's okay to do that. And sure, when you do that, you're going to get burned. I'm reminded, Dan, of the team member we had a few years ago when we were doing this, and he was like, I hate people, can't stand them.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Matter of fact, I don't even like the people that we serve. I think they're kind of snobbish, and remember all that. And it's like, well, we put the client first, and we listen, we care, we serve. I don't know. And you know what? I actually didn't fire that person. That person left, but that person left because they just didn't mesh with us. And I think it was kind of like a splinter. If you keep it in your thumb long enough, it'll work its way out. And so it is that does happen. It's okay. When you start doing some of these things, you start making some major changes in your company. It's very common for changes to happen because there's clarity for maybe the first time ever. And they're like, ooh, I don't necessarily agree with that. And that's okay. That's why I go back to, don't make it personal. Don't make it us versus them. It's just, but it is a fine line. Like, you can't be around here if you don't get this stuff. So leadership begins with your heart. I think really good leadership does. There's enough people out there that just stink as bosses, right? Sam's boss, that was the contractor that just screamed at him all the time because he didn't know how to, do carpentry work. And, if you're a guy that just screams at people because they don't know how to push a fertilizer spreader, they can't crank a weed eater right the first time, or, just remember that person didn't show up there to be bad. They just need some help. And there's a point at which you can't help people anymore. They have to move along. But the first or second or third time, lead with your heart a little bit. How would you want to be treated? It's pretty simple. It's not hard, but the business, don't let it beat you down so much you forget that part of it. And it's easy for that to happen. So just, if you're listening to this, check yourself, re-engage with the heart a little bit more, and set some purpose and values.
I love it. Thank you, Aaron. All right, you guys, again, articulate for yourself and for your team, purpose, values, go do good in the world. Thanks, guys, for listening.